And we've made it to our first assignment. Congratulations. All right, so at this point, you've gone through the first handout. You've asked questions if you needed them. You've downloaded the definitions, downloaded your hotkey list. You have your hotkey list ready to go, sitting right at your side. Maybe you've checked out some of these other things here. You've created your Dropbox account. That's a new thing where they put links to an external site. That's a new button there. I've never seen that before. Whatever. You watched the welcome to class. You watched the setting up your Dropbox thing, like I said. You've done your playing in Illustrator, so you're kind of comfortable with just basically navigating some of the stuff. I still have my definitions up because, again, it always helps. And I also have my hotkeys up because, again, it always helps. Okay, and you'll see file handling, zooming. So if you don't know how to zoom, you can look at the zooming stuff. If you don't know how to make new layers, that's where you can make new layers. When we use the pen tool in this assignment, there's pen tool stuff. Okay, and there's obviously selection things that we'll get into as well. And you'll obviously see how I do my work. Okay, so now we is on pathing. So you will do one thing. You will download this file here, and then you'll put that into your folder. So I put mine in my P drive, which is where I keep my stuff, S2017. So here's my Sarcona 1200 S17. This is not my Dropbox. I don't want you working off the Dropbox. I want you working off of your computer. And I have this inside my pathing folder. Here is my my file that I just downloaded. So I'm going to rename this before I get into it. Sarcona. And now because I already have a paths, I'm going to call this 002. Okay, you don't need to call it 002. I'm calling mine 002. And then we're going to open this up inside of Illustrator, okay, in a second. Now I also have on here this pen tool game. Okay, so I'm going to open up Firefox. And I'm going to go into the link address here. And the pen tool is probably one of the hardest things that you're going to have to learn this entire semester. But once you've learned it, it makes everything else easier. So this is just a fun little game just to help you out. Okay, so you can see there's some specific things. P to get to the pen tool, click on the point, click on the point, click and point, click on the point, and then escape to end your path. So that's how easy the pen tool is initially. Okay, just clicking points. And you'll see this is square or hard edged. We want this to be nice and smooth eventually. So you'll see. So if I click and drag, you'll see that he goes nice and smooth. It's really loud. Obviously you don't want him to hit the edges, so you just kind of go through. So it's a nice little fun pen tool game. And the more, if you just click a point, you only get 1 point for that. Okay, but if you click and drag like this, you get more points. You see I got 6 points for that one because it was such a fancy path. Something like that. I got 6 points too. Uh-oh, this one's going to be a tough one. Nope, see, he crashes. Boom. Okay, so it's a fun way to kind of go through some of the pen tool stuff in a non-threatening way, I guess. All right, so I'm going to open this up in Illustrator. You can double click it. I always like to be safe and just go to open and actually just find the file and open it. Okay, so this is a tracing assignment. All right, here's what the end result is going to look like. Sort of, kind of. Okay, yes, I know. You're going to be outlining each one of these items and then coloring each one of these items using some different color methods. Okay. Now you'll see that there's different shapes. Let me switch back to this one here. You can see that there's different shapes, so I'm going to zoom in on this first one here. And the idea is that we have transitions. So we go from being straight to a corner, to a little bit of a bend right there, and then a little squiggly curvy line. Now we want that anywhere where it's nice and smooth curve to stay a nice and smooth curve. Okay, so I'm going to hit F7 to bring my layers up. I don't need stroke on this one. Hide that. I do need a new layer. Do not touch the tracing layer. That is my layer. Do not touch it. Okay, I'm going to go to a new layer, and I'm going to go to my pen tool, and I'm going to start drawing stuff. Okay, So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off in this bottom left corner, and whichever way that I work, that's the direction that I'm going to be continuously working in. So if I start here, I'm going to go clockwise. I don't like to go here and do counterclockwise. To me, that seems odd. I always like to do pretty much counterclockwise stuff. Sometimes I guess I will, but for the most part, I like to stick to one direction. So don't be afraid to delete your stuff. Don't fight it. The idea with every single one of these paths is to create the smoothest shape, okay, most accurate, smoothest shape, with the fewest amount of points, all right? So what we don't want to do is this. So obviously this is a straight line, so we would click. All right, I may need to change the thickness of this stroke a little bit, so let me just go back to my strokes, which I've hidden that menu, so I'll just go back to stroke. There we go. Okay, not too much. There we go. Good. Oops. Let me delete this. There we go. Delete. Because I switched off, I stopped drawing my shapes. I just want to start back over. Okay. Now you'll see here, this is not going to be lined up right. So what people will try to do is they'll do this. They'll say there's a point here, there's a point there, a point there, a point there, a point there. Okay. Now you'll also see that I've lost my line here. It's because I have a white fill. So I'm going to click on my white fill and just say none, so I don't see that white fill. And then for this, we'll do the same thing. Okay. This is something you don't want to do. I don't want you to do it. Even if you click really close here, which you'll see. Look how many points that I have inside here, and by the end of this you'll see that this is not going to be a nice smooth path. Alright, so I'll switch back to my selection tool, click off, and you can definitely see here, it might be hard for you to see, but there definitely feels like there's a kink somewhere in this. And then definitely here, that is unacceptable. That is not the assignment. Okay, even if I take this down to like 1 point, or even like half a point, you can really see where that just looks pretty hideous. Okay, so let's jump back in, let's zoom into this. Cool. And I like to, fit one of these on the screen at a time. Set my settings 0.5 here. Black stroke works for me. Actually, I'm gonna set this to 1 just so it's a little bit thicker. And I'm going to go back and do the stuff. So I'm going to click on here. Okay, this is straight, so I'm going to click on there. This is straight, so I'm going to click on here. Now, to create this, what I want to do is I want to click and drag. That's how we make curvies. Okay, straight lines are just clicking. Curvies are clicking and dragging. So as I click and drag, and I'm dragging this down to the left, you'll see how that top area is nice and rounded. Okay, I get 2 handlebars. One of them is the one I'm dragging here, and the other one is like at the top. So what I want to do is just keep moving this until it lines up. So that looks like it's pretty close right there. Now what I'm going to do is you'll see that this side still has a curve. So if I started drawing another curve, I would get basically a loop that follows down. Okay, so I don't want a loop that follows down, so I'm going to hold down Alt and click on there. So that gets rid of one of my handlebars. And now this is basically going to come to a point. So this is going to come in nice and rounded, stop at a corner, and then I can continue drawing the rest of my shape. Now, this is the part that people get confused on, like where should I put the next point? Should I put it like up here? Should I put it here? Where should I put it? And the rule for this is when you're changing basically directions. Okay, so I look at this as this path is coming up here like this and going down. This point right here is where that's going to happen, where the direction is then changing to the other side. Okay, so I'm going to click here and drag. Now you have to click and drag, you can't just click, you have to click and drag. And what I should be able to do is just move my pen around up and down, left and right, until I get this pretty much lined up with that. Okay, now if you don't get it right the first time, it's no big deal, you'll be able to adjust it after, but you want to get it pretty close. Okay, now with this one, because this is a nice smooth transition, I'm not going to alt click that one. I want a nice smooth transition, so my next point will be back up here. So I'm just going to click and there it is. Okay, now you'll see that this is off. If I zoom in, you'll see that the red here isn't matching. The red down here is not matching. This should basically be covered up. If we look at this line here, you'll see there's a tiny hair there, and that tiny hair is fine. We don't need it to be, you know, I'm 7,300 pixels or percent in. Doesn't need to be exact like that. And obviously I could, you know, let's just, this is what you're not going to do also, is just take your thickness up. Because I'm going to look at all these at 1. Okay, so if I put it up to 0.6 or up to 6, obviously it's covered it, but that's still not what I want. Okay, so when I look at this, I'm going to have it down to 1, maybe even 0.5. Yeah, I think 1 is probably good. Yeah, so I'm going to look at this as 1, and I'm going to see how off you are. If you're this far off, you need to fix it. Okay, so in order to fix it, I need to grab the components. I need to be able to grab those handlebars for this. So if I switch to the pen tool, you'll see that this turns to a minus pen, or if I'm over here, it turns to a plus pen. This is not the tool to be tweaking this kind of stuff in. Okay, I'm going to hit A to get to my direct select, and when I hit A to get to my direct select, I can click on this point and get those handlebars back. Okay, so now I can grab just this one handlebar and just kind of tweak that a bit. Okay, now it could be a couple things of why this isn't lining up. Number one, I could have drawn this probably in the wrong spot. Okay, so that is possible that I drew this point in the wrong spot. That is definitely a possibility. I could have also not put enough points in here. Sometimes the shape of the curve is too drastic and we need less points or more points or whatever. Okay, so what I want to do first is just try to tweak this and see if I can get this one lined up. Okay, so I'm just going to keep tweaking it. Okay, and I'm really not getting as close as I'd like to be able to get on this one. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the P key, and I'm just going to subtract that point there. And what I'm going to do is try to add in a couple more points. Okay, so remember I said that you want to add points where there's a change in direction. So there's another change in direction, like right here, there's another change in direction. I was trying to get away with putting one right here and handling both, but maybe I can't do that. So I need another one right there. Now I can't just click here and have that point be put in. I have to add one to my curve, hit A key to move this point, and now I can move it back up there. Okay, I'll hit my pen tool, click a point, hit A, drag the point down there. Oops. If that happens, I'll deselect and grab it again. Okay, so right about there where we're changing directions. Now you'll see that this is cornered, right? And we need this to be rounded. We won't be using this. This actually adds a bunch of points to the area, or added that extra points. We don't want that. So I want to use my pen tool, and I want to convert these points into smooth points, just like we had before. So if I click on that, remember it'll go away, but if I hold down Alt or Option and I click and drag it, it'll pull handlebars out, so now it's a nice smooth curve. So now I can hit A, tweak this handlebar up. There we go, we got that side. We go to this point, hold down Alt or Option, and drag this. Now there is a correct direction to drag this in. Let me just draw a little shape here just so you can see it. Okay, so there's my little triangle here. If I hold down Alt and I drag it this way, see how they're crossing? That's a bad thing. So I'd want to drag it the other way to keep it nice and round. Okay, just so you can see what it looks like when I cross it and let go, it would look like that. Okay, even on this shape here, it would still do the same thing. So be aware of that. All right, so now I can go in and start to tweak this shape some. Okay, and then maybe the point is in the wrong spot, so always look too. You may need to tweak the position of the point. You may need to tweak the handlebars. Usually if you can get one spot like locked in and the other spot not locked in, that means that the point's probably in the wrong spot. Okay, and you can also use your arrow keys. Okay, in this case they're a little bit too sensitive, so you can go to Edit Preferences, go to units and there. Not units, where they move it to. There it is, under general. Right here is your how much it's moving it. So I'm going to change this to, instead of 0.01, 0.0025. So now when I use my arrow keys, it goes much smoother, much slower. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is just look at all of this, and I'm just going to go around. I'm holding on the space bar and just clicking and dragging and checking out the entire thing. So here, this is okay. I think I can get it a little bit closer like that. There's a little bit of red, a little bit extra red sticking out. That one's fine right there. A little bit too much. Okay, here there's a little bit too much red at the bottom. So zoom out a touch. There we go. See, this one's in the wrong spot. That's why this one's not lining up as nice as I want it to. There we go. All right, that looks good. Okay, so this point is, or this shape is done. All right. So now I'm going to go to the next shape. Okay, now knowing what I know about this shape, I know that I'm probably going to have a point right about here and right about there, because these shapes are very similar in how I created them. Okay, and then when we get down here, I'll probably have one there and probably have one there. Okay, so use what you know to help you build the rest of it. So I'm going to click. Here's where this shape's going to come in, so I'm going to click and drag. And you'll see that your second one, hey, that one's pretty close actually. And when I go to this one here, and I click and drag, this one's probably not as close. It actually looks like it's in the wrong spot. I'm going to zoom in some. There we go. That one's a little bit better. I still need to tweak that, but that's fine. I'll get that. Here, I'm going to click and drag. Come on. It goes. Now, because we're at a corner, I'm going to hold down Alt and click. You'll see how I zoom in and out all the time. That's a constant thing you want to be able to do. I'm going to draw this shape, so I'm going to click and drag downward. There we go, it's close. Hold down Alt, click on the point. I'm going to go to about here. Click and drag. It's good. Go down to this area, click and drag. Good. And go over here and click. And then now I can just go through and tweak the shape. Okay, so I'll hit A to grab the points. And you really want to kind of tweak one of these at a time. And you can see how one handlebar here is really big and the other one is a bit smaller. So that's something you have to do after the fact. You can't do that like while you're drawing it initially. That just does not work. So that top area looks good. Let's go here. Spot looks good. So you'll see how I'm just kind of dragging the handlebars outward. And then trying to rotate them, okay? So just again to kind of show a little example. Okay, I Alt drag this to make the handlebars nice and smooth. If I drag it out like this, you can see the kind of look that it's doing to that. It's basically taking the same shape and just stretching this part outward. If I take this and go further, it's pulling that area towards it. If I move it down though, it's actually changing the direction of that path. Okay, and because I'm moving it up and down, it changes both sides of that. Now later we'll get into how we can split these, but right now we don't want to do that. Right now everything should be just like this. Okay, so you want to pull it out, push it in, move it down, move it up, and or move the point. Okay, just to help you line up all those different spots. Start where you started drawing your shape. Okay, so start like up here or down here. Check it out all the way around until it's good. And then you just move on to the next shape. Okay, so I'm gonna do it again. Click, click. Look where the shape is gonna change. Probably about here, that's where it's changing direction. And I'm gonna drag this line kind of tangent to it. Okay, on our definition sheet, I don't have the word tangent in there, but you can definitely look it up. And you'll see exactly what that word means if you don't know. There we go. Again, ignore that this isn't lined up. You can tweak that after. I'm going to click, drag this one out to line that up. Hold down Alt, click that. This is rounded, so I'm going to click and drag this. And you'll see sometimes you do have to go like really far down. No big deal. We got another corner, so we Alt click it. This one, you'll see that it does change directions here, right? So it does go up and then change. But I think I'll be able to get away with it right there. So I'm going to drag this to that. Now sometimes you won't be able to, and that's not a huge deal. Sometimes you will be able to, and then you can tweak it. I'm going to Alt click this, click that, and drag this up like that. Okay, so now I switch back to my direct select. I check out the start of it. I move my way up. That's good. A little bit of red showing here. So let me click on this point and just kind of tweak that shape a little bit. Okay. Looks good there. Now let's pull this one in. Now there is no way to kind of lock that first one in place. You just have to be aware of it so you don't go like crazy with the shape of it. Okay. Now it may look like, you know, I'm kind of creating these shapes a bit easier than you are. Don't be, don't be frustrated by it, because it is a process. It is something that you have to work at, and the more you work at it, the easier it's going to be. Okay. You'll just naturally kind of figure out where these points are supposed to go, and you'll be able to put them there with much ease. Okay, now this one is going to be a little bit trickier because it looks like I have one side good, and then when I start to tweak the other side, okay, then that one isn't good. So in this case, I'm actually going to need to do a little bit something else. I'm going to go back to my pen tool, and even though this one is already set up, I'm going to Alt drag on it, and that's going to pull out two handlebars. Okay, and then I'm going to Alt drag on one of the handlebars with the pen tool, and you'll see how it breaks that handle. Okay, so now I have, if I hit A, click on this, I have two separate handles that I can manipulate individually. Okay, so that helps me line that up like 10 times easier because I have two handles there. And in this case, I needed the two handles to do that. Then I can just step back and just realign this. Good. And let's go here and see if we need to do the same thing on this side. Okay, so we'll zoom out. Nope, that one looks like it's good. All right, cool. We still see a little bit too much red right here. Let's see if we can get rid of that. So a little more pull is all I'm doing. So I got a little too much red there. So I'm going to squeeze this over to the right. Yep, that's good. Okay. The fewer the handlebars, the fewer the points, the easier time. So initially, again, like I said, it's going to take you time to just go through this and draw out all of these shapes. It's going to take you time. That's not a This isn't an easy assignment like make a square, make a circle, but do it, do it, do it, and then eventually this will be like super easy when we get to later assignments, okay? Some of these shapes, you kind of have to look for what's going on here. So like this one, the edge looks like it's right about there, okay? Now with this, it looks like it's kind of smooth into it. So I'm actually going to drag. No, I think I'm just going to click. I'll click and then deal with that later. Oops. Now, same thing here. I want to try to get it without putting in 2 handlebars, but we'll see. Okay, I can just drag that down and just tweak that later. I could also, while I'm in this, just hold Control, which just jumps me right back to this direct select, and I can move this too. I wasn't so zoomed in. There we go. Okay, so that's usually what I'll do is tweak stuff as I go, but for beginners, obviously, it's a little bit trickier. We hit to a corner, so I'm going to hold down Alt and click. Go to the next point, click, drag. I can hold Control and just drag this handlebar up. Get it closer. Cool. I need this to come to a sharp edge, so I hold down Alt and click. Click here. This is obviously going to be a little bit trickier. This is going this way and then that way, so I'm going to put the point probably like there. There we go. And then the middle of this, and the middle of that, and then the middle of this, and then the end of that. And it's easier to put points in than I think kind of tweaking the shape later, or then to take them out and try to tweak it later. Okay, watch out for this too. If I take this like that, see how we get this little crimple in here? You don't want that. This is nice and smooth, so right here, these red bars should be really smooth right in that point. And like I said, you may need to move things around. This may have to come down. This may have to come in. Go to this side. Good. Now see this one, I'm kind of working backwards. Honestly, it doesn't matter. You just have to start at one point and work your way around it. Now, if you know that where you drew your point, that it's off, like the red is showing, then you know the point itself is in the wrong spot. Go. And you always want to do like a once over too after you're done, because as you're moving stuff here, the stuff in the direction you're working or tweaking is fine, but then the stuff behind it may have gotten readjusted or tweaked or is off. Especially when you have a handle this far out and you're trying to line it up. It's kind of tricky to see if you are lined up. I think in this case I'm going to use the pen tool at this point and just drag the 2 handlebars out, and Alt drag that one up. It just gives me again another level of control. If you can get it with one, it's great, but you can't always get it with one. When we draw characters, when we draw logos, when we draw pretty much anything, it's all going to start with paths, and that's how we have to continue this whole thing, is by pathing all the way over. So I'm going to do one more shape because these next, or do a couple more shapes because these next couple are, you know, same ballpark. They're just kind of tricky. But the rest of them are, you know, pretty much replicates of that. Okay. And I do want you to kind of explore this and try to figure out where the best spots are for these. Okay. So here we're going up. It's coming down. Here's where we're kind of changing directions, getting into a new shape. So I'm going to go to about there. And tweak it. This line should really be like that. Okay. Now I'm not getting the shape that I want there, so let me do something different at this one. I'm going to hit undo. I want to pull a handlebar out of here, but I only want to pull one. Okay, so let me just show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so before we were dragging here, click, click. We would drag a nice smooth curve, and then we would alt click to get rid of that handlebar, so we would have a nice corner. Well, we can do that the opposite way, where we can click, click, so we have a corner, and then alt drag a handlebar out, and then our next point will be nice and smooth. Okay, so that's what I want to do here. So I'm going to go down here to where this is, and I'm going to click. I'm going to go up here and click. Then I'm going to hold down alt and just drag this up. Okay, and then I'm just going to move this over to about there, and then drag that up. Okay, so now I'm going to get two handlebars here to help me line this stuff up. So as you get more comfortable too, try to tweak your stuff as you're going. Get comfortable doing that. Same thing here. Try to find out where these two are going to converge, right about there-ish. Pull that up. There's another one. Pull that up. And go back with the control key and just kind of tweak this. There we go. And right about there. Cool. And right about here. Come down to this corner, drag that up. Now I know that this next one is going to be kind of roundy here, so I'm going to hold down Alt and just break the handle immediately. Okay, because I know it's going to be broken anyway, so I'm just going to break it. And I think this will be the next point. Okay, I don't know for sure. A lot of this, like I said, it's a guesswork. It's try it out and see what happens. So I'm going to drag this one to about here, trying to line up that first part of it. So right here I tried to line up, and grab the control key and just pull that out. Grab the control key, pull this in. There we go. So I got that. Okay. I know the handle needs to get broken because there was a corner, so I'll hold down Alt, break the handle, and get it lined up with the direction you know it's going to go. Okay. Then the next one could be here. You know, let's try that and see. So I'm going to really pull this that way. Maybe not. Yeah, this is too wild. I'm not sure what I was even thinking. What are you thinking, Sean? Crazy. So let's go about here and then drag that out. There we go. That's good. That's pretty close to that. And now the next point will be here. The ones where there's a hard edge there, it's obvious. There's got to be a point there in order for you to even have that edge. It's always the ones that are like in the middle of this smooth line where you just don't know, like, should it be here? Should it be another click up? That's pretty close. I'll tweak that after. Again, this one I know is going to be broken, so I'm just going to break it initially. Might be able to do this one too, so let's just click and drag. And Control, drag that up. Control, drag this down. Control, drag that up. Think of this a lot like a video game. And just the more times you kind of play with this, the easier time you're going to have. Especially on the later assignments. And if you feel like, I'm just having a hard time getting this, fighting this, well, then maybe you do need an extra point in there. Okay, not all the time. Sometimes you can get it. But other times, you really do definitely need another point. Now you see the point is off, so I need to move it so it's on the path. And then I can tweak this. Tweak that. Good. See how I'm bouncing back and forth because I'm changing this one path. It's kind of changing the whole shape of the other stuff, so I have to constantly move back and forth. This point may need to be moved down some. That seems like what I'm finding. And how will you know? You'll practice it. That's how you'll know. You'll try one thing, that doesn't work. You'll try something else, and that doesn't work. You'll try something else, that doesn't work. And eventually you'll get it. There we go. Cool. Okay. Yeah, so there's a bit of tweaking on VC in there, but it's still nice and smooth like the original. That's what we want. Let's go here. There we go. There we go. This one's going to come down and go up, right? You can kind of see a little dip there. So maybe I'll pull an anchor point off there using Alt. I'm going to go to this point and drag up. Control, drag this in. Good. I'm going to Alt, break this handle. Whoops. Everything disappeared. Actual size, there we go. I don't know what happened there. Oops, I hit Control minus and it's zooming out to 800% for some reason. All right, so I will not use whatever Control minus for now. So about here, looks like that's where it's going to be. Maybe about there. Looks like about the middle of these two spots. Okay, like I said before, if it's not, tweak it, move it. You want to get the stuff lined up, so I'm basically trying to line this up, and then I'm going to pull this and line this part up, and then I'm going to pull this and line that part up. So I'm trying to meet these like halfway. As I do this part should stay lined up. Okay, if I start moving it this way, that's going to get away from that. So I need to pull it up. Oops. See, I'm getting away from it. So that's where that has to go there. That one can't go any further because then it's going to pull it away from that line. And as I get this one in here, yep, I think this point is just not in the right spot. Let's pull that down. Pull this up. Oops, and see I'm off here, so I can move that up. Good. See, now Control minus seems to be working. For whatever reason, it just freaked out for a minute. Okay, so I'll go to this one. Now with this, I can only really move this one up. This one could move out or in. Yep, there we go. So I can't really move it up or down, so I have to be aware of my limitations. This one, you see I did it. If I move it up or down, it ruins the other one that I just set up. So once you have one area set up, you won't be moving it up or down, you're just moving it basically in or out. There we go. All right, back to this. Okay, here I'm going to drag this out. I didn't break this one initially, but I can still do it. Just hold Alt and drag it, and that'll break it. Hold Control, scoot that down. And like I said, you can draw the entire thing and then come back and tweak it, but this is how typically I work, and a lot of professionals work this way as well. Control or Alt drag to break that. The end of this one is about there. Oops. Now we'll get something interesting here in a second. Because I accidentally clicked off of that, when I start to draw my next point, it's not connected. Okay, not a big deal. All I have to do is hold Control to click on the path, then click on that last point, and then I can continue drawing. Okay, so I'm going to break this because I know it's going to be broken. I'll go over here, draw that in, and then just tweak that. Oops, this one I forgot to drag a point out. So I'm just going to redrag this. Go. And then just adjust that. Yep. This one needs more work because that's not lined up here at all. Yep, cool. All right, so the rest of these shapes are going to be very, very similar. In how we did all these. It's just drawing them basically over and over and over again to get comfortable with the tool. That's why we're doing this assignment, to get comfortable with the pen tool. Now, some tips as you're drawing your stuff out here. Let's say you're trying to line up a path. I'll just finish this off so we can see it. Okay, so let's say I needed to line this up. We never want to break something where we want to keep it nice and smooth. So if I break this handle, this is now a corner. Okay, regardless of what we do to it, it's now a corner. So if we need to get it back, we just hold Alt and re-drag on that point, and now it's back. Okay, so by Alt dragging on a handlebar, it breaks it. By Alt dragging on a point, it will remake it. If we need it to be square, we Alt click on it, and now it's square. Okay, we can't get rid of the handlebar after we've drawn it. The only thing we can do is kind of move it right to the center. We can't see it anymore. Okay. And now we have, you know, that set up there. It's still there, but it's very hard to select, so you don't really see it. Okay, especially like this, we don't want, let's say we wanted this to be moved over. We wouldn't want to click on this to add a point and then scoot it over. We'd actually want to, like we've been doing, use these things to adjust where that position is. Okay, so if you look at this, and I click on this and we look at the points on it, you can see where all my points are. You can see I have a point here, 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 there, and there. I'm going to click on this one. Oops. Come on. There we go. When we click on all these points, you can see exactly where my paths are at, or my points are at. And just a little trick too, I don't know if you were catching it as we were going, but with those smart guides, as I was hovering over these areas, you'll see it says anchor. That's where this one below it was drawn. Now don't use that, I mean, you may want to use that initially as you're drawing your stuff, but eventually get in the habit of not looking at that, because you're not always going to have that available. Okay, and some of these are actually very hard to find where he put it. So there's an anchor there. This one is probably only 4 anyway, just these corners, and the rest is just manipulating it. This one, there's an anchor here. Should be an anchor close to there. Maybe it's in the center. Yep, right there. There's an anchor right there. Okay, so you could use that initially if you needed the aid as you're starting, but don't rely on it, because when we start drawing our other stuff, you won't have that. The only reason that it's showing the anchor there is because the path underneath it was drawn and it's showing you where those points are. That's the only reason. So when you draw on top of a cartoon character or a logo or whatever, you don't get that stuff. Okay, so go through, draw out each one of these things. Also go through your layers and name them. Okay, so this one here is the top left, so I'm going to call this one L1. Then the next one L2. Okay, and I can verify it by clicking on it. The next one L3. Make sure you're not accidentally moving these also, because that'd be a bad thing. L4. I think you get the idea, right? Okay, all the way down to the bottom, L whatever the bottom one is, and this will be R1, R2, and all the way down to the bottom. All right, so you'll have all those things, L1s, L whatevers, all the way to R's. So now you're going to color it after you have all your stuff done. Okay, so inside of here I have this called drawing layer, so obviously you want to maybe label your layer also, or drawing layer. Okay, and then we want to go through, you'll see the labeling here, R1, R2, all the way to R8. Okay, the eyeball clicks it off, hides it. And here's L8, which was that one. Okay, then you want to color these things. So what I'm going to do is just get rid of all my color by clicking on this and just assigning the default colors. Okay, so now this is the default colors, just black and white. I'm going to start up here and zoom in. And the stroke on this one is, I'm sorry, the tracing layer on this one is actually on top, so you're going to see the red, so I'm just going to turn that off for a second so we don't see that. I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to go to my color, and I'm going to pick a starting color. I'm going to start way up here at the top at red. Okay, so that's where I want you to start. And then pick just a nice coloring of red. Okay, nothing too dark. You know, something that's obviously red, like say that. Okay, so I'm going to go to this HSB area, and I'm just going to round these off. So 360, let's say 70, and 100. Okay, so there's my first one. Then I'm going to go to my second one. Now what I want to do is pick that same color. So if I hit I get the eyedropper, which is this thing, and then I can just click on that, and it'll select that same color. Then I can go into this and just change it. Okay, now you'll see that it's not perfect. This is it was 360, 70, and 100. Now it's 0, 69, and 100. On the hue area, this is actually degrees. So 0 and 360 is exactly the same number. But obviously 69 and 70 isn't. It's close enough. We don't care about it being 1% off. So what I'm going to do is this is 360 here, and then this is like 180 right in the middle, and then this is 0 at the bottom. So just so we can see this, what we want to do is basically color this different colors throughout this using only this hue area. Okay, and the purpose of this is just to kind of see how colors relate to each other. So if we see there's a purple, blue, light blue, green, yellow, orange color here, they're basically like 40 apart. So if I change this to 40, you'll see that we now get the next one up, which is like this yellow, maybe even a little bit 30. That's better. So I'm going to go with 30, 69, and 100 for that one. Okay. Now I'm going to go to the next one. So instead of switching back to this by hitting V and then clicking on it, then hitting I and then clicking on that, you can just hold the control key and it'll let you select stuff. Okay. It's like a toggle between the last tool you had and the one you're currently on, which is pretty awesome. So now I'm going to go to the color, and you'll see it's now 2968. Again, not a huge deal. We can always fix it, right? So I can just go to 60 and then change that to 70. There we go. So I'll hold control, click on this, I drop that, and add 30 again. So maybe 90, 70, click on that, click on this. And then this was, oops, I didn't pick the original one. That's fine because I remember it was 90, 120, 70. I don't remember that one. Click on that again. That was 100, yeah. There we go. I drop. And so what we're seeing here is that these are all the same saturation and brightness. The only thing that's changed is the hue. Oops, that was the same color. 180, 70. There we go. 10, 70. There we go. All right. So now this has gotten us basically the, not the entire spectrum, but it's gotten us basically 30 hue units apart. Okay. And you can see that these colors actually work well together. All right. As opposed to us going in here and just randomly picking a color like that one, and then this one, and then that one. These colors aren't really blending together as nicely as we may want them to. Okay, there's not really a color theme here, and we want to pick colors that go together because the world is a happier place. All right, so now for this one, what we're going to do is pick one of these colors. So I really like blue, so I usually pick blue for stuff like that. I drop it, and I'm just going to go into the settings and just give this a full saturation. Oops. And 207, that was good. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is now go to the next one, I drop. And I'm just going to take the saturation and brightness down by 10%. So this will be 90 and 90. Okay, I'll go to the next one, click it, take it down again, 80, 80. Oops, I drop. And you can make it a little bit more drastic, and I probably will go back and do that. And just so you can see here, never mind, wrong program again. So the worst thing about working in a trillion programs is that you expect something to be there in every program. It's not. Oops, 30. Okay, so now this on this side is the same exact shade of blue, but the saturation and the brightness are now changed. So all the same hue, but the saturation and brightness have changed too. So if you wanted to play with different values, you could. You don't have to stick with that same exact thing. What I want you to do is find a pattern that you're going to change each one. And it doesn't have to be the same. Like these colors here are pretty similar. I'm actually, oops, wrong button. I'm actually going to go into this and just change it a little bit more. I think this bottom one maybe instead of being 30 and 30, I'll make it like 10 and 10. Okay, so that makes that pretty dark. And this one will be 20 and 20. It's still kind of close. Maybe I'll go 35. There we go. Okay, now what that does is just give me more room to play with these other ones. Because I definitely want to see a difference in each one of these colors, so these top 4 don't look so similar. 60, go. There we go. So I just kind of spread out that spectrum a little bit more. So now that it feels like there's a bigger difference between all of these colors here. Okay, but the idea is that they're all still related to each other. They're still in that same hue, but just different saturations and brightnesses. Now, just to kind of show you, like I just duplicate this by dragging it, that layer to a new, to the new layer button down here. I'm gonna turn one of them off, just so you can see it. You don't have to do this part. You'll color yours, obviously, but you will pick other stuff. Let's say I like the green one to start, so I'm just gonna grab all of these and pick on that same green. There we go. And then each one of these I could then change, let's say just the saturation. Okay, actually I'm gonna grab all of this and just saturate all of them up to 100. There we go. Okay, and then this one I'm gonna take the saturation down to 90. Still not much. I could also do this. Close that. This color slider I can change to be a hue, saturation, brightness. So now it's a lot easier to change these colors without having to keep popping into that same window. So I'm going to make this, let's say 80. That's good. And then this one I'll make 60. Good. 50. 40. 30. 20. And 5. Okay, so now this is another way you could have colored that too, by playing with just the saturation values. Okay, this one I want to see the multiple colors, so I want to see hue changes only. And then this one here you can do either saturation or brightness, or both of them. Okay, and then just so you can see what the brightness would look like, I'll again kind of pick one of these to start with. Set this up to 70. That's good. Okay. Let's go to the brightness, and we'll make that. Make sure you can see a change. That's the idea with each one of those. That from one to the next, you can see a definite shift. Oops, maybe too much. 40. There you go. So now that is just a brightness change in there. And again, these colors are related to each other. These colors are related to each other. They aren't random colors that we've just kind of like hodgepodge thrown together. So that's why they look so pleasant. Trust me, I've seen plenty of things where people throw in whatever colors and it looks awful. Okay, so like I said, you don't have to have both of those, just have to have one. Pick whatever one you want to do for this side and do that. This is the colorful one. This is that one. Cool. All right, so now what you're going to turn in, let me just delete that one because we don't need it. You have a drawing layer, you have a tracing layer, okay? And initially this was underneath it. You're going to drag your tracing layer atop of it, okay? And then you're going to save it. Now you may call yours, every time you save your work, you may save it as 001, then 002, then 003. Ideally, you want to save in iterations, meaning that you do have some sort of backup. In case one of the files goes kaput, you have a file to jump back to. Okay, so as you're working, you may have different iterations that you've saved, 4, 5, whatever the case is. Okay, so whatever your final one is, let's pretend that my final one is 5. All these are right now exactly the same. That's the one that you're going to turn in. So I'm going to go to this and copy my number 5. I'm going to go to where I have my Dropbox folder. Because I have the application installed, it sets it right here. Okay. Then I'm going to go into my Sarcona 1200. I'm going to go to my pathing, and I don't need this one because it's my old one that I showed you. I'm going to paste that in there, okay? And then I'll get a blue circle. The blue circle will eventually turn to a green check mark, meaning that it's turned in. As long as I have my Dropbox app, which I do. Yep, it says uploading, 2 seconds left. There it is. So now it's done. So now your instructor can grade it. Okay, so that would conclude, I hit the back button here. That would conclude this assignment. Okay, and that's how I'm going to receive that assignment. Now, if you need more practice, play with the pen tool some more, because when we get to music icons, logo, and all these other ones, you'll use the pen tool for every single one of our assignments. Every single one of them. All right, so get used to it. Make sure that you are doing your weekly, daily drawings, okay? And every time you do a daily drawing, you have scanned it, drawn it, and put it into your daily drawing folder. And then label it with the date. So if today is the 22nd, you have put the 22nd's drawing in here, the 23rd's drawing, the 24th drawing, whatever. Okay, and that way when I look at this, I can see your drawings. They don't have to be complex. You just have to have a drawing. When I grade this, I'm going to, just so you're aware of it, let me hide these colors here. I'm going to zoom in. You'll see that the red one is on top, so I will actually keep the red one on top and just see how close you are to that. Now, if you're a hair off in some spots, where's my line? If you're a hair off in some spots, it's not going to be a huge deal. But it is a big deal if you're off by a lot. If I come in here and it's, let's say, like that, that's a huge difference between where it should be, which is on this red, and where it is, which is over here. That's a huge deal. So you want these to be as close as possible. I also am going to look for how many points you have on each one of these. If you have too many points, the grade will get knocked down. You will not be graded down if you have two less points, as long as you have the exact same shape. Okay. I'll also be looking for your naming, making sure all your stuff is named, and I will also be making sure that your stuff is labeled or is colored correctly here. Okay, so that it does look like all these are different hues, and all of these are different saturations and or brightnesses. I will also be looking for the name of your file to be called the correct thing, so it should be your last name underscore paths underscore whatever number it is. And obviously making sure that's in on time. This one is due Sunday, so don't wait until Sunday morning to start it. Start it ASAP. Get all your stuff done so it's ready to go. All right, but obviously if you watch this video, hopefully you're done with it or close to being done with it. Any questions, let me know. Send me an email, sarconas@macomb.edu, and or post it inside the questions and clarifications. After you're done with the assignment, then you will come into your discussion board. You will find the pathing discussion board. You will answer the questions by hitting reply and typing it in there. You will wait for one of your peers to also reply to this, and you will reply to theirs. Incomplete sentences, make sure you spell check. Make sure that it makes sense. It's not just like, yep, I agree. It should be a complete sentence thought out. Cool? Awesome. On to this week, and then next week we'll start some more fun stuff.